with this whole sign stealing investigation going on, I think that Jim Harbaugh, without a doubt, is in his final season as the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. He's already been flirting with the NFL the last couple of off seasons. Of course, we know he was very interested in getting the Minnesota Vikings head coaching job not too long ago, but they picked Kevin O'Connell after him. The Denver Broncos reached out to him before they went ahead and signed Sean Payton to that lucrative deal. I think it's only a matter of time before we see Jim Harbaugh back in the National Football League. And for you Michigan fans that say, oh, he's going to stay, I mean, why would he want to stay with everything that's going on? Like, if the worst case scenario happens and you get a postseason ban, you get some sanctions, and you get some scholarships revoked, that puts you at a disadvantage. And it kind of would make it a little bit harder for Jim Harbaugh to continue to have the success that he has had over the last couple of years if you get the worst case punishment due to your sign stealing scandal. And this was a similar situation that played out with Pete Carroll a long time ago. Now, although he didn't get caught for stealing signs, he got caught, and that USC program got caught for a bunch of other things. And when it got too hot for Pete Carroll, guess what happened? He dipped for the NFL. And Jim Harbaugh, I believe that he has a lot of unfinished business in the National Football League. Remember, he lost the Super Bowl to his brother, and his brother has bragging rights over him. And I think that Jim Harbaugh has a hard time sleeping at night knowing that he lost to his brother in the Super Bowl. Hell, if I lost to my little brother in the Super Bowl, I would want to get some revenge. I would also want to have a little bit of bragging rights. Imagine Thanksgiving or Christmas comes around and John and Jim Harbaugh are just chatting it up, and then they start getting into a little bit of a debate about who's the better coach, and then your brother brings out his Super Bowl ring. He's like, man, like, I got this Super Bowl ring over you. I beat you in the Super Bowl. Like, of course, Jim Harbaugh wants to get back into the NFL and try to see if he can do what his brother was able to do. I don't think that Jim Harbaugh has anything left to prove in college football other than winning a national championship. Now, even if Michigan doesn't win a national championship, yeah, it kind of would hurt, but I still think that Jim Harbaugh would be on his way out. Now, if you win a national championship, it would be the perfect story because you'll have a guy who played at this university, was really good playing for Michigan when he was the quarterback here, and then he ends up coming back years later, taking over the reins of a program that kind of was a little bit forgotten in the college football landscape, brings them back to national relevance, leads them to a national championship. He pretty much completed his mission. And why not go on and finish the mission in the National Football League by trying to win a Super Bowl? Jim Harbaugh, he definitely is going to have a lot of suitors out there. The Chicago Bears, it looks like Matt Eberflus is going to be on his way out. Maybe the Carolina Panthers could have an opening, and there could be a couple of other intriguing job openings depending on how the remainder of this NFL season goes. But I think Jim Harbaugh probably is going to be dipping once this whole season settles and this whole investigation ends up having more information to come to light, because it just keeps getting worse and worse for Michigan. We keep having more information coming out about what teams knew Michigan was stealing their signs. Ohio State, Indiana, Rutgers, whoever ratted Michigan out. I mean, we don't really know who snitched on Michigan in this situation, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, Michigan got caught doing something that they had no business doing. And it's not about, Michigan stealing the signs. It's about how they went about stealing the signs. You can't record another team bringing in their plays with their signs. That's just against the rules. Just because other teams are doing it, cool. But anytime you go overboard with it and it gives your team an advantage that other teams don't have, it's a problem. Versus, it doesn't matter if the plays that you knew were coming worked or not. I mean, you still got caught cheating at the end of the day. And for Jim Harbaugh, the good thing for him is that he doesn't really have to deal with any of the repercussions that comes from this. Even though he is in denial of having any knowings about this going about, I think that's completely bullshit. Like, you're the head coach. You should know everything that's going on with your program, from the players to the coaches. Now, you may not know every intricacy and every detail, but when it comes to something as serious as this, I'm pretty sure Jim Harbaugh knew a little bit about what Connor Stalions was doing. So the whole statement about him coming out having no knowledge about this, I think it's just complete blasphemy. And this isn't the first time that Jim Harbaugh has lied to the NCAA. Like, he lied to the NCAA about buying and recruiting Hamburger, even though, like, that was a little bit petty on their part to make him have to suspend himself for a couple of games about it. He still lied about it. So why should the NCAA trust him? And even though he is saying that he's cooperating with the NCAA, like, of course you're going to cooperate because you know that you're going to have another opportunity in the National Football League. You're not going to have to deal with any of the punishment that come from this. Same thing with Pete Carroll. Like, I'm pretty sure Pete Carroll denied any knowledge of what was going on with USC, even though, like, if you're buying players, obviously, if you're the head coach, you're in the forefront of that. And Jim Harbaugh, you have to hire these guys and you give these guys a job. Now, maybe Jim Harbaugh didn't know that Connor Stalions was going to the games and recording these signs from these teams in the fashion that he was, but I just find it pretty hard to believe that Jim Harbaugh was just completely left in the dark about what somebody on his coaching staff was doing. You know, I think Jim Harbaugh has his hands dirty, just about as dirty as everybody else who's involved in this operation for Michigan, and I don't blame him for departing for the NFL. Do you? Because if I was Jim Harbaugh and I got caught cheating and the NFL comes offer me an opportunity to coach, I'm leaving. Because why would I stay out of school, have to deal with the punishment that's going to hinder me from being able to continue to have the level of dominance that I have had in the past, when I can just go ahead and get rid of this whole entire situation by just leaving? And plus, for Jim Harbaugh, like, he already has done God's work with this program. Like, the only two things I knew about Michigan football prior to him taking over as the head coach was Denard Robinson, that one season that he was going off for Michigan, and that quarterback named Devin Gardner who was wearing number 98. Outside of those two things, like, I didn't really hear too much about Michigan football. He brought this program up from the ashes. The recruiting has improved tremendously. The on-the-field product has improved tremendously. And even if he doesn't win the national championship, like, I think the job is pretty much done for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. It's time to come back to the NFL. And plus, coaching in the NFL is a lot more easier than coaching in college football because you don't have to worry about recruiting 24/7. Recruiting is something that you have to do every single day, nonstop, anytime you have time to do it. And you don't really get too much time to spend with your family because of you having to be on the road or having to send guys on the road to do it for you. I think coaching in the NFL is a lot less time consuming because all you got to do is worry about managing the players on your team, hiring the right guys, and just making sure that you're up to snuff with your X's and O's. And Jim Harbaugh, his first couple of years when he was the head coach of the 49ers, people seem to forget that they were really dominant. They went to 3 straight NFC championship games, including a Super Bowl, which he lost to his brother. And there's no way that him losing to his brother, John Harbaugh, can sit well with him. I definitely think that he wants to get back into the National Football League and try to have another crack at winning a championship. With this whole entire sign stealing scandal going on, I think Jim Harbaugh is definitely going to be on his way out. And from what some people tell me, him and the AD already kind of have a little bit of a rocky relationship. Now, I don't know how true that is because I'm not going to act like I'm just this diehard Michigan insider and I know everything that's going on with the program. So if you're a Wolverines fan, you kind of give me a little bit of some insight about the relationship between Jim Harbaugh and the AD. But for Jim Harbaugh, it's like you already flirted with the NFL the last couple of off seasons, even though you probably didn't really consider taking a Denver Broncos job because Russ is cooked right now. I wouldn't consider taking that thing either. You definitely were looking at trying to become the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And with everything that's going on, if you got an opportunity to bounce ship, why not take it? So Jim Harbaugh, I think he most definitely is going to be leaving for the NFL. I expect this to be his final season at Michigan. I would be incredibly surprised if he ends up staying as the head coach of Michigan football because this is a sinking ship right now. I don't think that the NCAA is about to just give Michigan a slap on the wrist. Like, they have way too many people involved in this thing for it to just be a slight punishment. And I think that if the punishment isn't severe enough to the other Big Ten teams liking, like there's going to be a lot of animosity and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be protesting against it. Like people make it seem like the NCAA just randomly found this out. Like the NCAA didn't just randomly find out that Michigan was stealing signs. They got tipped off. So if they got tipped off, that means that these coaches are expecting some kind of punishment. And I don't think they're going to be okay with just a couple of fines and a couple of suspensions here or there. Like I definitely expect for them to be a postseason ban. And I definitely expect for some scholarship reductions to be included in whatever the punishment is going to be. Like anytime you get the FBI involved, you can't just have no slight punishment. And I know that the NCAA has been inconsistent with their punishment in the past, but I think with this one, they're going to come down pretty hard on Michigan. Now, I don't think that they're going to get the death penalty or anything like that. I don't think Jim Harbaugh is completely going to ruin Michigan football like that. But I definitely think that with everything that's going on with this scandal, I don't see any reason why Jim Harbaugh would stay. Like, why would you stay and have to deal with punishments and deal with being handicapped when you can just go to the NFL and have no limitations? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Jim Harbaugh, I expect him to be coaching somewhere on somebody's sidelines in the NFL next year. And I'm looking forward to him coming back to the NFL. Hopefully it's the Carolina Panthers because God knows Bryce Young needs some way better coaching than what he's getting right now with the Carolina Panthers.